welcome to SquishiVision, where I am going to give a reaction to the Acolyte Destiny, the third episode in the second week of this new show set during the High Republic. So this episode, fairly early on actually, I think, for a show, is entirely flashback. Not even any bookended or cliffhangers set during the modern era, so we don't get modern day May and Osha or any of the Jedi who are currently around. It's purely the four Jedi who we know who are on the planet 15 years earlier, plus a younger Osha and May and their witches coven. So they all grew up as witches, and we get basically bits and pieces about how this is a force sensitive coven of witches, although they don't call it the force, they refer to it as something else. And they're all women, and so the birth of May and Osha, it was done somehow, and we get some implication of that they were created and it was deliberate, and whether this is the same way that Anakin was created through a manifestation of the Force, through deliberate manipulation of midichlorians, or something else entirely. It's not immediately clear as of yet, but there's something certainly going on behind that. And we get a sense of that this group of witches feels like they're very persecuted, but people are hunting them for their false powers, so they've isolated themselves. They keep it a secret. They have children now to prolong their. So it's kind of a genocide happening because they're kind of having to hide in fear that they're procreating, and they do generally think that if people knew something bad would happen, that something bad does happen. So in a way, and I think the nice, great, complicated thing of this episode is it's not clear who is right. I mean, we're told and we've been trained and taught for so long to consider that the Jedi are good guys, and we know there's exceptions, and we know that they're somewhat incompetent and they've become like victims of their own success, and pieces defeated them. And by the time we get to the fall of the empire, they've become so comfortable with their power that they're not able to kind of stop Darth Sidious. But at no point was either Jedi Order as an entirety portrayed as like a corrupt, antagonistic, evil force. Like at worst, it was just too complacent and easily toppled over. Like so they were flawed for sure, but at no point did we ever get the implication that they were like bad. Obviously, it has been commentary in the past about Jedi taking kids and the controversial kind of element of that. So this kind of takes the other step where we basically see most of the episode through the point of view of the Witches Coven, who obviously are very against the Jedi. And so it's kind of an interesting situation where they don't want to give up their children, and they fear the Jedi, but they also come across as kind of controlling, and that when Osha's like, I don't want to be part of this coven, they're like, no, you have to fulfill your destiny, and not really giving her a choice. Whereas the Jedi come over and are very clear about how they want to test these children with the mindset taken away, and they're very forceful. They come in all titled, like, you can't stop us from testing children, that's our right, even though we're not the Republic. And they make a show of force about it. But they also do give Osha the choice of where she wants to go, and it's kind of a pros and cons to both. I don't know if that was deliberate. I don't know if it's deliberate to really give us that kind of grey area. And it does give you a lot to think about. Ultimately, Osha does decide she wants to go be a Jedi. And then obviously, like, Osha's choices matter, but as you'll point out, she is a minor. She's, 15, 12, 13, 10. She has to be like 8 or 9, right? Because she has to be younger than Anakin was, I think. So she has to be like 7, 8, or 9. So very, very young. Still on the older side of things, but relatively young. And she wants to go with them, but as people are right, she's a child. She doesn't really understand the full galactic implications. She probably wasn't alive when the Witches Coven had to go into hiding, so that obviously adds an extra element there. do you respect her free choice, or do you recognize the fact that she isn't really like the best authority on what's best for her? So you have that element of it. Um, we get kind of this. We also get this interesting kind of thing about how the twins aren't like that essentially. Um, May is more powerful in the Force, but is also more like darker, more kind of tradition minded and like rigid on that kind of belief of her destiny. And whereas May wants her own individuality and is willing to split up against from everyone else, even expensive, that kind of thing. And then that May's whole thing, she doesn't take it very well. She thinks that, we've got to stick together. She doesn't cope well with the idea of her worldview being challenged. Whereas May is kind of very much her individuality and like she wants her own thing, she wants her own space, and it very quickly see that kind of division between the two. And that division kind of goes to the extreme. So obviously the Jedi come along and Ocean wants to go on a Jedi. May sees this as a betrayal, and she decides to kill everyone. She decides to kill May, Osha, and that kind of apparently kills everyone. I don't know how much I believe whether or not simply setting a door on fire and a room on fire would literally kill everyone in that facility. So I don't know if that's a just something that in execution just missed for me, or if there's something deeper there and there was something else going on that we're not entirely sure about. I do think it was a bit of a kind of a character jump with May going from 0 to 100, but I mean, it's a flashback. We already know that she's got that dark inclination. We don't need to spend a lot of time. We don't have the time to spend on it. Not if we want to only spend one episode. So I do think it was rushed, but maybe it kind of had to be. We have to give it granted that that's kind of her mindset and that's how easily pushed over she was. We do see the kind of different ways that the twins are portrayed. So your full props to the actress for doing that kind of subtle character differences. To be fair, we also get like kind of different stuff in the way that her two parents raised her. So the human appearing one is very lenient on them and gives them that choice and stuff about what they want to do. And obviously that's picked up by Osha a lot, whereas Hover is more rigid and more concerned, cares more about tradition. That's always rubbed off on them, maybe a bit more. I expect to play a bit more with the conflict between the two parents, but essentially no, the one who's more lenient kind of puts her foot down and that's it, and then they all die. So there's not really much on that. It seems like they are actually all dead. I mean, May survived, and I can see why they thought May died. She fell down a chasm, but apparently you can survive that, and she did. I mean, fair. She's a Dark Force side user, so that is pretty consistent on that side. Full props again to Lee Jung Jae as Sol, just playing this absolutely heartwarming, supportive, comforting Jedi even when he was younger, doing all the right things, or speaking, knowing how to speak to children, being that one presence, and like actually doing a good job of portraying that and portraying the emotion, portraying the kind of like heartfelt nature of a Jedi. Absolutely love that. We get given an extra kind of. We get to see a bit more of Tobin as well, but not much. He's Padawan, so he's obviously more inexperienced, and we see that, but he's still got that kind of gentle thing to him. We don't get much in terms of his kind of opinions. He doesn't have much agency. He does kind of seem to be kindly towards children. Oh gosh, I should bring up the cast list because I am not too sure. Acolyte. Indara, definitely the kind of more experienced Jedi with a much more kind of stern attitude, but she is willing to give kind of Sol that space to go along. We see that kind of here. That's consistent with how we see when she's older, so she hasn't changed much, but she's obviously the one that needs to. We don't know enough about Kelnaka older because we've only just seen him briefly, but I do love him in this. We don't again see him a lot of him in the flashback, but drivers for his character. Um, I don't really know how to describe it, but it's kind of how you expect a Wookiee to act. Would you like to act? I like that they're using their sense of smell to to children's story. I got distracted by the Wikipedia article that I was reading. And I think there's a we don't see it on screen. I think we're gonna flashback to it again. I think there's a connection between Kalnaka and Ocean that we don't see on screen. And I think that's how she gets the engineering device she uses to escape and how she learns some of the skills very quickly. And I think he's an engineer and he teaches her some stuff that she picks up very quickly during that time while May's having her test. Because obviously we skip over that quite quickly. Um, that's what I think is going on there. Uh, So yeah, I mean, this was a pretty okay episode. It kind of fills in some gaps. It also creates some mysteries, and I don't know if we're gonna have another like extended flashback to like see the other side of this, or if that's all we're gonna get. Again, it's very to the point. There's nothing. I don't think there's anything groundbreaking. There is some implications with how they create with children that people are like latching onto and they're gonna theorize with. I don't. As somebody who isn't massively fond of theorizing or thinks as much kind of. I mean, I don't think it changes much about anything. I think people are like, oh well, you know, this is the case now, so that must mean that Anakin wasn't this, and it's like it doesn't really mean necessarily mean that. We don't have much details on it yet already. Um, but yeah, I think it was alright third episode. How long is this series? How many episodes are there going to be? 8. So almost halfway through. I think it's fine to have this episode this early on and do so little. Um, as long as we catch up in the next couple episodes. I'm fascinated to learn more about the director, uh, Kogonada, because from what I can tell from this Wikipedia article, he made his name doing media analysis of other people's films by doing video essays on YouTube, and that's like, huh. So you can do that and get it successful. Anyway, I was gonna play some Fortnite, but I realized that I need to do a reaction video to the final Inside Out trailer. So I guess see a video just dropped now from Angry Joe, and the title is The Acolyte Episode 3. Does it break Star Wars? What about this episode would break Star? I don't understand what about this episode was meant to have broke Star Wars. Other than the fact that potentially someone else that wasn't Anakin was artificially created by the Force, and if the Jedi never find that out, then it doesn't really matter. I mean, the prophecy is flawed as it is. Anyway, I'm going to do this reaction video, and then we will see if I have time to Fortnite. But I think I'm flaking now, and I went to bed late last night, so probably going to call it after that. Okay, goodbye.